Hello, everyone. It's time again for Drummer Nation Live, the show for and about drummers, where we talk about all things drums and drums related. Your comments are welcome, or you can post them for people to respond to later in the thread. We have a great drum story in our continuing series, this one from Dave DiCenso, that's inspiring and informative. And I'm going to talk a little about YouTube drummers. Love them, hate them. What's going on with that? Your comments welcome. Let's get started right now.
I absolutely love playing drums, and I couldn't imagine not having that in my life. And I really, if I could help facilitate that and have an impact on your life so that you can play drums, that means the world to me.
Okay, thanks for watching. We have a pretty full show today, so let's get right to it. I want to start with a discussion of this YouTube drumming phenomenon that is happening everywhere. First of all, let's look at why I think it began. For years, gigs have been on the decline, and the pedagogy for learning drum set is better and better, and thousands of drummers are coming up and finding they don't have the work opportunities that they did several decades ago, like when I was coming up. Concurrent with that is the ability for everybody to broadcast live or at least to record it and post it. So lots of drummers, ready up and coming cats, are going to find creative ways to play. And that's an option for them. They can play. We used to play along with our favorite tracks as practicing. Now it's turned into something of a show. And I understand why. Um, let's talk about that, though. The drum set role historically has been almost exclusively one of accompaniment. Very rare. Most of a drummer's life is not spent soloing. It's spent accompanying others. My friend Jamie Haddad, the master percussionist, told me once his job is to make the person on the bandstand next to him sound a little better. So if we look at it that way, like our role is in support and accompaniment and helping everything to sound great, the idea of playing with a recording kind of usurps that, so that there's a tendency to play more and more and more to be noticed. Couple that with the free nature of YouTube and social media, that means that the more hits you get, the better you can do in terms of monetization. If you get 100,000 subscribers and you keep posting stuff weekly, you can make $1,000 a month. And that can really help drummers having a hard time finding gigs, COVID notwithstanding, right? So that's come into play um, in a way that makes you want to show off, right? How do you get all those hits? How do you get all those subscribers? Well, if you're going to sacrifice the role of an accompanist and go more towards a soloist. And so it becomes a contest based on the nature of the platform. So I'm not offering this or anything I say on this show as, hey, man, I got the answer. You guys are wrong if you disagree. I bring these things up because they're topics that affect drummers. I've been lucky enough to, I speak with a lot of world-class drummers all the time, Zoom meetings, hangouts. And so a lot of these things I present to you are the kind of things that are on their minds. So again, it's just meant to get you thinking. Maybe, I mean, I'm not a big fan of the YouTube drumming thing, but I don't put it down because I know that it has a part in helping people to continue to play and enjoy themselves as drummers. What you think is important as well. All right. It's a full show, as I said, so I'm going to move along. We have um, a drum story. I've asked a lot of great drummers to submit these stories to me, and there are no rules. They can say whatever they want. They can relate whatever story they want. and they range from 2 minutes to 15 minutes. And I have a great one today from Dave DiCenso that runs about 15. So I'm going to bow out here and let's hear from Dave. Here he is.
Drummer Nation, good day, everybody. This is Dave DiCenso here. I'm going to share a story for Drummer Nation Drum Stories. I got a fun one. This goes back to, I'm going to say 2004. I was playing with a jazz pianist named Hiromi, who many of you probably know or certainly have heard of. And this was early in her career. And she, so she didn't have a ton of money behind her at this point. And actually, I wasn't, now that I think of it, I wasn't even playing with her anymore. I had stopped playing with her, but she called me to do, to sub for her drummer on a short little West Coast stint. I think we did like 3 or 4 dates. And the first date was at Yoshi's in, I believe Yoshi's is in Oakland. And I was living in Boston at the time. And I had, Hiromi's management flew me out the day of the gig. Just not a good idea, right? But I'm guessing they did that, for financial reasons. I don't know exactly, but bad idea. So I have to get up at the crack of dawn, and get to the airport for my flight, and they. Another detail with this story is they booked me, they didn't book a direct flight. They had me going through Chicago, of course. And so I've got a connection. I've got to get off the plane at O'Hare and get a connecting flight. And I'm traveling with a bag of cymbals, probably a case of cymbals, and a double pedal, because I'm I'm neurotic about my pedals. Meaning I can put any, I won't say put any pair of sticks. I mean, I have my favorite sticks too, but my favorite heads. But, I'll get the job done. I'll get the job done no matter what. But pedals, it's a big deal for me. So I used to travel with my pedal. I still do, actually. If need be, I still will. So I've got cymbals, double pedal. And, it's no fun traveling with a double pedal. Right? I do it because it's important to me. And then, a bag of sticks, right? Stick bag and brushes and whatever, mallets and so forth. And of course, a suitcase. So I get to O'Hare, and sure enough, I think what happened, if I remember correctly, we had to circle O'Hare for a while. So we're late getting there, and I miss my connection. And so the next flight, and I think I was flying into San Francisco. So I had to get to Oakland. Once I got to San Francisco, I still had a ways to go to get to the gig. So I missed that connection flight. The next one's like, I don't know, it was a couple hours I had to sit in the airport waiting for this next flight. And I get that next flight, and I did have a cell phone. This was like the early days of cell phones. I mean, people probably had cell phones several years before I did, but but I was new to cell phones at the time, and I had no internet or anything. It was just like if I had numbers and so I didn't have the number for the car service that was supposed to meet me at the airport and take me to Oakland. So I get to San Francisco, and I'm hours late. I can't call the car service, and they're not there. And to boot, all my shit is lost. It didn't arrive. So I've got nothing. I don't even have my suitcase. Never mind all my, my cymbals and sticks and pedals. And so I have to wait in this frickin' line to report that my shit is missing. And all the time the clock's ticking, and I'm just like sweating now. Like I had already been sweating. And, and this was like an 8:00 hit. It wasn't like we were going on at midnight. And fortunately, I guess in hindsight, you gain 3 hours, right, going from east to west. So I had that working in my favor. But I had been up since the crack of dawn at this point, and I'm late. I have no luggage, no instruments, and I have no ride. So I think I ended up taking, I don't know what I got on first, a train, a taxi, a bus. For some reason you would think that, I don't think I had an address for this place, for Yoshi's. I don't think I had an address. Otherwise, I think I would have just gotten a taxi right from the airport and, and had him take me right to Yoshi's. Although that would have probably been expensive. And who knows if I would have been reimbursed. I got to say, Hiromi was a monster talent. She is a monster talent, but I wasn't thrilled with her management company. And so, anyway, however the hell I did it, I definitely was on a train at one point. I want to say the last thing maybe I was on was a bus. I don't know, but I think I did all three. Train, bus, taxi, I don't know. The bottom line is I show up and the doors are about to open. This is the best part of the story. So I know, thankfully I had that cell phone, and I knew that Steve Smith, legendary drummer, my buddy Steve Smith, was coming to the show. So he lived in the area, and he was coming to the show. So I had remembered that. So I think I called Steve and I called Hiromi. And I didn't know what they were going to be able to get from me to play. So I call Hiromi and tell her the situation. And so she gets working on, getting me cymbals. And I believe it was a Sunday to boot. So I don't think music stores were open. So she gets to work on getting me whatever she can get me. I don't know what she's going to be able to get me. So I think, I'll call. And sticks were important enough at this point because I didn't want to be playing, like giant sticks on this jazz fusion gig. Did I say fusion? Jazz fusion gig. I didn't want to be playing, frickin' marching sticks or anything. So I call Steve, and he's actually on his way to the gig, right? I'm not even at the gig yet. And I asked him if he's got any sticks with him. And he happened to have one pair of sticks in the car with him. And so I show up, doors are about to open. I do a quick line check. Hiromi was able to get me, or whoever was able to get me, some cymbals, uh, a double pedal, which was nothing like the one I was carrying with me, which had been lost. Um, and and it's here's the most exciting part of the story, is all the sticks that they were able to get me were the sticks that drummers had left behind that were in the frickin' green room, all chopped up. There wasn't a matching pair and there wasn't a solid pair amongst them. It was like you know, a handful of sticks, and they were all crap. And so I fortunately had a pair of Steve Smith's sticks to play that night. And, I'm a lot of people think I'm an easygoing, relaxed, chilled out dude, and I'm not. I have that sort of external, um, there's this external perception that I guess I put off. But I was shitting my pants. I was really stressed out. And like, even if everything went perfectly, back then especially, I was still struggling with performance anxiety. And Hiromi's gig was no walk in the park. This shit was demanding, musically and physically even. So I was a mess, but check this out. And there's also a moral to this story. I had checked out. I had been through so much stress getting to this gig that by the time I got there, I was like, I don't even give a shit what happens. If this is the worst gig of my life, who's going to blame me? I'm not going to blame me, So I'd taken myself off the hook. And that turned out to be a blessing. Because I didn't care what happened at that point. And we did 2 sets that night. And, man, it was just like one of those nights, man, where like everything was cool. Everything sounded good. I felt good. And there was I call Steve my buddy. I mean, first of all, he was a drum hero of mine when I was coming up. Not just with Journey, but he also played on this record called The Edge of Insanity by Tony McAlpine. And he was playing like hard, like progressive metal drums, like music. The music was hard progressive metal. And he killed it, man. And he did it in a way that you could tell this drummer, if you didn't know who it was, this drummer had a little bit more, remember, a lot of bit more than just your sort of your average or typical metal vocabulary. And I was just all over that album. I was a total metalhead when I was a teenager. I was really into it, and the progressive rock and double bass and, and so Steve Smith just killed this record and all the Journey stuff. And I had heard, some of the Vital Information records, the early ones. So Steve was, I would say he was a genuine drum hero of mine growing up, and certainly an influence. And we became acquaintances and over the years, and he was extremely, generous to me in terms of just giving me support, like just like moral, verbal support. Just, when one of your drum heroes tells you they dig what you do, it feels good, right? It's motivating and gives you, sense of validation and confidence that you might not have had. So just a crazy 24 hours, insane, made more crazy and insane by the way I dealt with stress back then in my life. I magnified it, you know, uh, and and it was one of the best gigs. And I hadn't played with Hiromi in I don't probably about a year because I had left like the year prior, I think, and we didn't rehearse. And there was no time to rehearse at sound check. All I could do was basically do a line check, and like I said, I was off the hook in my own mind. And we had a couple of burning sets, and I felt really good about it. And I was so happy because Steve Smith was in the audience, and as much as I had my ego checked out of the equation, somewhere in the back of my mind, I wanted to play my ass off for my drum hero, one of my drum heroes, right? Who wouldn't? And so, that was the happy ending to this crazy story. And I think I still have that pair of sticks somewhere down here in my basement. So yeah, man, that's my drum story. And so Steve, thank you again for not only providing me with the pair of sticks that I used that whole night, but just being that support for me at that time. I really appreciate it. And if whoever's listening to this, if you don't know who Steve Smith is, he's a legend. Go check him out. In fact, he went on to play with Hiromi. Hiromi had called me several years later, and I was touring with Josh Groban, and so I wasn't able to do her album and tour that she wanted me to do all these years later, and she asked me for recommendations, and I recommended Steve because I knew he dug that music, and I knew he would, kill it. So just a cool little story. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. All right, Drummer Nation, peace and love. We'll see you again.
Okay, back to me. Thank you for that great story, Dave. I think he learned a life lesson that probably means something to a lot of other drummers. Athletes talk about being in the zone, um, just do it, staying within yourself, the Zen approach, mind, no mind, which is to have a focused, concentrated intensity without the distraction of peripheral thoughts. However you arrive at that, Dave found a way to let all that stuff not get in the way and tap into his real self and play. And I sure appreciate that story. I think it's great for all of us. Okay, Dave's a teacher. I'm also a teacher. I'm very comfortable with drum lessons online. If you're interested, you see I have the rig for it. And I also have a drum book that's on Hudson Music, Contemporary Linear Drumming. Please check that out. All right, we're running a little long today, so I'm going to wrap it up quickly. I hope everybody's back on the gigging scene. Things are starting to happen. Yes, sir. Everybody stay well, stay positive, and I'll see you next week on Drummer Nation Live. Thanks. Bye.